enough is enough.
Hey guys, welcome back to the No Holds Barred Network with another episode of Under the Ropes. I'm your host, as always, the Queen of the Indies. And today's special guest, I'm really excited. I like that we got like different background going on with you, where you're sitting outside. At least it's nice out. My friend,
Yes, it is.
my friend Chuck Payne. What's going on?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Long time no see, right? Like,
Yeah, right.
which we'll get out there. We'll get into that whole conversation. Guys, if you could share, like, all that fun stuff on the network, I'd appreciate it. If you guys got questions for Chuck, please drop them in the chat. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Bring them on. Bring them on.
Bring them all in. And if this is your first time on the Other Rope series here, I host everything with independent wrestling. I interview wrestlers, promoters, referees, behind the stage, anything independent wrestling. I got you covered. So we're going to start this interview out. You know, we'll get into this weekend and everything like that. But I always like to start my interviews back to basics with everybody, just in case that people may or may not know you. But we'd like to start off with, how did you get into professional wrestling?
Well, I'm gonna take a wild guess and say a lot of people don't know me. I got into wrestling. Funny story. I actually grew up at a summer campground not too far from where I lived. I grew up in Glassboro, New Jersey. Summer campground, high dives, rope swings, you name it, it was there. And I was just a little tiny blonde daredevil. Double front flips, double back flips, you name it, I was doing it. Over the years, I got bigger, playing football. By the time I was in high school, I was about 6'4", 300 pounds, offensive lineman, and I was still doing all those flips. And this guy comes up to me, and my dad's known him for a while. He was a friend of his wife's growing up, and he approached me, and he was like, "Man, I would love to see you do that off the turnbuckle." And I thought he was kidding. I thought he was joking with me, like, aha, yeah, I'm a wrestling fan. Come to find out, he actually owned a wrestling promotion by the name of ECWA. At the time, they were running down in Newcastle, Delaware. So when that was presented to me, it was a childhood dream of mine. As I got older, the realistic sense of, like, I got to go to college, get a degree, get a career. That all was, right there in front of me. Get a football degree or football scholarship to go to college. And I told him, I was like, look, let me go to college, get my degree, and I'll give you a call. Well, college didn't work out. Mom got diagnosed with breast cancer, dropped out, started to work full time. And I'm like, you know what? I got the money. I got the opportunity. Picked up the phone, and I was 19 and hopped in the car, drove down to Newcastle, Delaware. And setting up chairs, rings, entrances, did security. And that same night I met Michael Keener. For those of you who don't know, ECW ref. Japan, Australia, Europe. He's traveled. Got some much many experience years in the business, and he was my trainer.
Wow.
For the, what was that, 2013? March of 2013. No, I'm sorry, that was 2012. Yeah, 2012, end of 2012. That whole summer going in, driving down to Delaware once a month, setting up the ring, paying tuition, training before shows. Keener then, by October, was able to get the Lighthouse in Kensington, Philly. They rented the top floor, so it was about 4 flights of stairs. We carried the entire ring piece by piece, just me and about 8 other guys. That was our first night of training. Second night of training was put the ring together. Third night of training, we finally got to learn what it takes to be a professional wrestler. And man, it was tough, but worth it. I look at a lot of the guys at schools today, and look back at, like, how they're training, and the things that are offered to them and stuff, and it's like, man, like, I wish I had that growing up. Yeah. But I'm happy with how I trained. Kensington, Philly was a whole different world to me at that time, and for a year and a half, I I learned how to, navigate and get to and from, and be there when I needed to be there, and put in the work and get home, and get back to my real life, the next day, and keep that going. A few short months, Breaker Morant, who at the time was doing a annual fundraiser show at the Newman Goretti High School in South Philly, um, needed help, just ring crew at the time, and they say, hey, whenever you show up, you always bring your gear. Well, a couple months into training, I didn't have gear. The only thing I had was a pair of knee pads.
Oh, wow.
My boots at the time were a pair of snow boots.
Oh, wow.
That's what Keener told me to use. So they decided, hey, we need an opener match for Keener, and I was there. So I debuted, not as Chuck Payne, but as the Texas Hangman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So just to give you a brief little description, blue jeans, a white wife beater, heavily out of shape, probably more than I am right now, and a black luchador mask with my blonde hair sticking out of the bottom of it. And I was from the 50-yard line of Dallas Stadium. I was the most hated person in that building.
Wow.
734 people packed out that place, and that was my first match against my trainer. And I couldn't ask for a better debut match. Keener talked me through it, walked me through it. Everything was going so perfect until I hit him with a gorilla press slam in the corner and broke his tooth.
Well, oh my God.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yep.
That's a moment to remember.
Oh, big time. And to this day, he will not let me live it down.
Oh.
Broke my tooth and you owe me money. So, But and then a few short months after that, I made my debut as Chuck Payne in ECWA, which then led to the formation of the Payne Brothers with Kyle Payne, who was working as Kid America at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry, Kid USA. That led to the formation of the tag team, and we had a nice long run. And Kyle was one of the first guys that I met down at ECWA. My age, he was about a year in at the time, so he had a lot to teach me and kind of help guide me as far as the training process and learning how to navigate through the locker rooms and what to do, what not to do. And then shortly after that, Keener was helping us get bookings, elsewhere, to learn how to, wrestle guys that you've never worked with before, never even met before, which is a valuable lesson in my book. So, yeah, it was very, it was a humbling year, but yeah, it was, I consider the first 2 years of training and being on the road, my training time. So
Right.
That's how that all started.
That's so awesome. Like,
Oh, yeah.
my God, like you talk about like, things that always stay with you. And there's one with your first match, but let me give some love in the chat. Nick Papa G's in the chat.
Papa G,
Well,
Papa
first
G.
he was like, ugh. And he says that him and Keener have heat. He goes, LOL. Dave B's in the chat. He goes, Chuck Payne in the house. So
What's going on?
what's going on? Make sure you guys share this. Get some people in here. If you got questions, drop them in the chat. So, but here, let's go with hey Craig. He goes, I know this guy. How are ya? Yes, I love it. Come in and join our chat. So
By all means.
so I always like to ask this as well for fans that are all over here on the No Holds Barred Network. They're not just New York, New Jersey. We got people that are out of the U.S. Shout out to all the people that listen into these as well. So I always like to ask for a fan. Obviously, I know you. You've been on the Indie Talks, many episodes, like you guys seen them on that if you watch those. So for a fan that's never seen you in the ring before, what match would you recommend that they sit and go watch?
Whew. Oh man. I want to honestly say the match that I had with Lucky 13 back in May of this year.
Yeah.
That was my favorite match for multiple reasons. That and Dan Champion.
Yeah.
both of those matches were first time evers. I've known Lucky for quite some time leading up to that point. But to work with him, especially in a title match environment, and H2O, and you know who Lucky is, and who he has become, and all the stories that I've heard of him, and getting to talk to him and stuff, being able to share a ring with him, I was very nervous for many reasons. One, quarantine did me dirty.
Wow.
Extremely out of shape. Extremely out of shape. There's no excuse for it. It's on me. I was down and out. Gyms were shut down. I enjoyed it. You know what? I was like, I put 7 years in. I'm gonna enjoy getting fat for a little bit. but then add the being out of shape, and the fact that we were kicking in the summer, and then kicking in the summer while wearing a mask, the breathing aspect of it, and then trying to keep up with a pace like Lucky 13, everybody in the back huffing and puffing, they're sprawled out on the grass after their matches trying to catch their breath, and everybody's looking at me like, oh man, Lucky 13, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it, I'm fat.
Oh my God.
did the match. Lucky tells me to slow down halfway through, mind you.
Oh wow.
He's like, yo, slow down. I was like, all right. Told a great story. I think for me, that was the match that, I at least can say with pride that, like, I can get in there with anybody. I'm comfortable with working any different style. Lucky 13 was a style, that it's very unorthodox to many, and it was never experienced by me working with a style like that. So I want to say Lucky 13 would be the match for me to show people, like, hey, I can get in there. I'm a big guy, but if it's time to go, it's time to go, and I put my working boots on. Dan Champion as well was just because of the size, between the both of us. I've noticed, especially early on in my career, big guys have a tough time working with big guys, telling that story, and I think Dan really kind of opened my eyes as far as, what to do, what not to do, the psychology behind it. And I think he and I had a great match that was a last minute throw together because it was the fundraiser show for Tara when she got hurt. And yeah, it was, I didn't know what to expect. And I felt so comfortable within the first lockup. Like, as soon as we locked up, I was like, wow, awesome, and just really, really good guy, really knows his stuff, and, helped me on levels that I can't even thank him enough for. So those would be the two matches. For those hardcore fans that have never seen me, pick one.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, I'm gonna go into a couple of matches a little bit later with it, but I was there. I was physically there for you and Lucky 13. Lucky 13's been on the podcast too. Strange enough, he's episode 13. It just happened that way. I didn't even plan it that way. I was just like, would you like to do a podcast with me? And then I was like, wait a minute. I was like, is this 13 episode? And I was like, oh shit, it really is. Like, so I really didn't know. It just happened that way.
Meant to be.
It's meant to be. I always love seeing Lucky. We just saw him this weekend. So which is great. And Dan's great too. I see Dan at a lot of places on there too. He's like someone again on the list of that I gotta get here on the podcast. So
of course.
So let me go into this, and then Dave, I see your question in chat, and I'll get to that in a minute. So I want to ask about the mask of Chuck Payne. So how is it inspired, and when is it decided to be worn?
Okay, so the mask, it's always been Kane. Okay, Kane. The only reason why I started watching wrestling in the first place. Back when, I was, 4 or 5 years old, didn't really understand, a lot of things or whatnot. And, I see something and it's like, oh, that's cool. There's a movie back in the 80s, Val Kilmer stars in it. It's called Willow. For those of you who don't know Willow, I would highly recommend it. Um, it is on the Disney Channel, the Disney app, which was, I thought it was really really cool. I was not expecting that, but I just watched it a couple times recently. Uh, there's one of the main characters in there, General Kale, who was played by Pat Roach. And for those Indiana Jones fans, Pat Roach is the same guy who was killed by the plane propeller.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the Temple of Doom was also the same guy who played the big henchman who got killed by the Rock Crusher in the Temple of Doom. So I thought that was really cool that he played both of those characters. Pat Roach is also a former professional wrestler. From back in, I believe, the 70s, early 80s. Nothing big, but still, the fact that he's a professional wrestler. He played a character in the movie Willow called General Kale, who just had this big, monstrous demeanor, big guy, and he had this cool, like, goat skull mask, and he'd slide it up and down and whatnot, and that was, early on, like, a mask was so cool. What does he look like underneath? The mystery behind it, the critique, the not the critique, but like the style of it, and I just love the mask. I love the concept of the mask. Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers' favorite. Kane was somebody who I saw the WWF trivia game back in the day. My cousin had it, and we didn't know how to play the game. I'm 4 going on 5. He's like 8 going on 9. We had no idea how to play the game, but we were just looking through all the trading cards and just picking out all our favorites. Kane was the first one I saw and the first one I grabbed because of the mask. I wanted to know who he looked like. I wanted to know more about him. Fast forward to 1999, my dad, me and him are staying up watching TV. He's flipping through the channels. Episode of SmackDown. It was Kane versus Road Dogg. And I was like, I know who that is. And oh man, my dad's like, all right, let me go back and watch it. And I watched the whole match with Kane and Road Dogg, and I just, 7 foot tall, mask, big ray outfit, huge muscles. I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. And it got me into watching wrestling. And a lot of it had to do because I wanted to see the night that Kane lost his mask. Because I just, the mystery behind it, So, I've always wanted to play and be a character that had a mask to create that mystery to other people. Like, what does he look like? Also because it kind of helped me feel a little bit more comfortable. The facial expressions and stuff like that, I don't think I'm very good at. A lot of people disagree. I just feel more comfortable, under a mask.
Okay.
So, while working at H2O and during the pandemic and all that downtime, at the time I lived about 15 minutes down the road. So I would go to training and then help clean up, and then me and Matt would end up sitting out talking, all hours of the night, and hearing him tell his stories and talk, and he'd ask me my opinion and stuff like that. Well, I brought up the mask, and he's like, you know what? We're in a pandemic right now. We're just starting to get back. Let's go ahead and try it. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, great. This was before, like, we really started getting big with IWTV. So, he's like, you know what? This is the perfect time to do it. So I was, looking all over. A lot of places were out of my price range, and a lot of things that were in my price range just weren't exactly what I was looking for. That style, the shape, the way it formed on the face and allowed the hair out. I'm like, man, I have no other options but to just get a Kane mask. And I found one on eBay. It was a fan-made mask. It was the replica of his 2001 mask that he debuted at SummerSlam of 2000. Found that. I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. I wanted to keep it just to have it, just to hang it up on the wall.
Yeah.
Be like, this, this is awesome. But then I'm like, nah, this is the mask that I want to wear. Matt Tremont's brother-in-law, Mike, has an air shop company. He does T-shirts and other things at the Burlington Farmers Market in South Jersey. So Matt was like, go talk to him and see if that's something that he would be able to do. So I had a design in my head and took it to him and, kind of showed it out. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is the mask, the material. Is this possible? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So that was the creation of the first mask, which debuted in actually September of last year, 1 year ago. Um, I was nervous because I just wasn't sure how the fans were going to take to it. I mean, if you look at it, it's clear as day. It's a Kane mask.
Mhm.
But I was hoping that the creativity behind it would kind of take that away and be
Mhm.
like, yeah, all right, cool, Chuck Payne. Um, and sure enough, we kept going with it, and it worked. And I wasn't getting criticized as much. I'm sure people had some things to say, but I didn't hear it. Nobody said it to my face, so I was all right with it. A couple of the boys in the back were like, "Ah, Chuck Kane," you know, but I was like, "This is all right, cool. This is awesome." Um, got that all the way through January, won the title in January, which was awesome. The whole build up and the storyline we did with Ron Mathis and WTF. I couldn't have asked for a better build up to my first heavyweight champion ever. Um, Around that time, I decided, like, all right, time for a change. So that's when I came out with another design and went right back to Mike. And Mike's like, I got it. And 2 weeks later, he had the newer design, which was more of the skull
Mhm.
looking design. Um, and I loved it. I was like, this is good. This is awesome. I can make this work. Uh, and yeah, we went with it, and it was for me, it was the most comfortable time ever being in a ring, and that was during the title run and all this title defenses that I had, and you know, in my opinion, some of the best matches in my career. So I just loved being under the mask. I love working with a mask. I feel like some people say it kind of takes away from your creativity, but I think it does the opposite. I think it adds to my creativity. So yeah,
No.
if I could do it again, I would, but we'll see what
Nah,
happens.
I get it. It's interesting to hear the story behind it. Definitely
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So let's go back. Let's talk this weekend. Let's talk about the cage. Let's talk everything about, well, not everything. We're gonna talk about your match. I mean, we're gonna talk about WrestleMania 4.
Oh, we'll talk about the whole show.
It's just, this was an
I need a
insane.
cigarette.
Yeah, I feel like I need a cigarette for this whole. I don't even smoke. And it was just like, and being there hours before. If you guys haven't checked the Indie Talks episodes that I just released the other day, go check it out. I give you guys backstage interviews with everybody. You never know who's gonna pop up. Which was really cool. That I think it was like the first time that I physically got to witness weapons being created. Never mind the fact that it's being made by Alex Cologne, legend. Like Alex
Yes.
Cologne's been on the podcast as well, so you guys can see that. You could see Chuck was on it too. Like I was telling him don't go in the barbed wire, which he wound up doing anyway. But
Sorry.
there's so many cool aspects about these indie talks of Matt allowing me being backstage, and it's great to showcase what goes on at H2O before gearing up to these shows. And last night I was actually just talking to one of my friends, and I was like, this is why I love H2O so much, because you get a little bit of everything. Never mind the fact that you have these hungry students, right, that are so young, between the ages of like 18 and like 22, 23, I want to say, that are incredible in the ring and give you a different style. It's not all the same thing. Maybe somebody's flippy, maybe somebody's a mat wrestler, like a technical wrestler. Like you have different types of wrestling. Then you have your vets, like you're there, like G Raver's there, like Alex Cologne, like Lucky 13 showed up. Like you have all these people that are H2O, and the story building. This is like one of the things that I love so much, and like I can't thank Matt enough for letting me do all these backstage things. But you, and I've seen this, and this was even on one of the other indie talks that I had, I think it was on the Sean Henderson, you guys were building the cage outside, which is incredible. So let's talk about a little bit of that. The cage building, your match, going through barbed wire, going through give me a rundown.
You got it. I also do want to get back to the school and the undiscovered too, so I'll dive into that in a little bit. But yeah, no, so the original plan for the four-way between Ron Mathis, Devin Moore, Ricky, and myself was completely different. Matt did that as a shoot that night when he cut that promo. What was it, the last show in August? It was him fired up, he felt the emotion and talking about Danny Havoc and whatnot. He just shot that out. Um, so when we all got in the back after that night, he looked at all of us. He was like, sorry, like, so I was like, damn, like we got to build it. For those of you who don't know, like the original barbed wire cage is the entrance. We turned it into the entrance. So we're like, well, shit. We got to start from scratch. And we agreed that, with doing that, we were going to need to, buy all the material and lay it all out and whatnot. Well, I just, for shits and giggles, just started sketching stuff out. There was a couple ideas that I had, from things that I've seen in the past and matches that I've seen and setups and stuff like, the no rope barbed wire and, matches like that where it's like, this is, let's make this different. Let's try and see if we can tweak some things and not have it be just the traditional barbed wire cage match, which that in itself is, incredible, but let's make it different. So I sketched a few things out. I brought it to Matt the one day that we all, agreed to meet up and get there. And that day it was just me, Devin Moore, and Matt Tremont. And I showed him the sketches, and he's like, oh man, this is awesome. A couple of the things he was like, let's definitely do this. And a couple of the things he was like, let's definitely not do that. So, and that's another thing I love about working at H2O, and not to jump off topic, but working with Matt, yes, Mike Keener is my trainer, always will be my trainer. He's like the father figure in the business for me. But my time here at H2O, especially in the last year and a half, Matt Tremont has become such a mentor to me. He allows me to put my input in and throw some ideas out there. And Matt has a gift of being able to tell somebody your idea sucks without offending somebody.
Yeah.
and I've seen it, and it's happened to me too, where it's like, okay, well, let's go back to the drawing board. What didn't he like about it? What did he like about it? And all that really does, it doesn't deteriorate me from coming up with ideas and doesn't make me feel bad about myself. It just makes me want to work harder. Makes me want to like, all right, let's get back to the drawing board and figure this out. All right, is this going to work? Is that going to work? And he'll explain it too. He'll explain the reasoning behind it. It's either not his vision or it's just not that good of an idea. Love the fact that, Matt is that person for me right now. And so, Devin Moore and Drew Blood and G Raver and Lucky when he's there and, all these guys that, I watched and looked up to, in the very beginning. Now I can consider friends and they consider me a friend. So love being at H2O.
Yeah.
Back to the cage. So, the cage was, I've never seen Matt Tremont outside of H2O building. Always there. Never seen him outside. I met him once in Hoboken. The first time I ever met him in person was Hoboken. Other than that, H2O. The only place I've ever seen him. He's like, hey, I'm gonna get in your truck and we're gonna go to Home Depot. And I'm like, cool. So me, Devin Moore, Matt Tremont, we drove down the road to Home Depot, and he walks in there and he's like, man, this place is awesome.
Christmas.
Like a kid in a candy shop. Like a kid in a candy shop. So we went from like, all right, stuff and materials for the cage to like, we could do this for the building. We could do this for entrance. We need to fix this. Oh my God. So we got the bulk of what we needed at Home Depot, and there was a few things that we really wanted to try to see if they had, and they didn't, out of stock. So we went down a little further down the road to the Tractor Supply Company. Walked in, and walking down the aisles, and we're like, man, this is probably not going to work. And then we went to the outside section, and he froze and was like, oh.
I can so picture this. That's the funniest thing.
Greatest thing I've ever seen. He's like, we're building H2O back here. So we ended up, we found some chain link rolls and then some chicken wire rolls. And, we were trying to keep it cost efficient.
Right.
But also we wanted to make it look different, structure, for safety purposes, not just for us, but for the fans around it.
Yeah.
So we were hemming and hawing for a while, and finally we were like, you know what, we're gonna do this out of chicken wire, which meant less wood and more visual to be able to see inside the cage. Whether it's cameras or fans that were in the building live, and just it's a environment for destruction.
Yeah.
And as we were getting back and building it, Matt kind of wanted to have it like a Hell in a Cell type feel. It's not just the confinement of the cage and the ring. He wanted to kind of have it so that way we can get outside and add a little more to it, add another element to it,
Hmm.
which is why the name House of Havoc came. Obviously paying tribute to Danny Havoc and whatnot, and also to allow us to do other spots because
Right.
me and Ricky are big boys, and we're not climbing up on 2x4s.
Yeah.
So to allow us to have that freedom to get out there and do something a little different.
Yeah.
I saw a couple tweets, like, oh, what's up with the three sides, blah blah blah. Well, here you go. It's not a traditional cage match. It's
Yeah.
a House of Havoc match.
Yeah.
So yeah, it started out. We framed it all out and built it and whatnot. And there was a couple issues because the ring has been beaten up all over the years. So with tightening it and loosening it and taking it apart and putting it together over time, it's been warped and it's not quite squared. So build the frame, take it off, make adjustments, build the frame, take it off, make adjustments. It was a
Yeah.
good 3-week process of building, and this doesn't work, this got broken, that got broken. All right, we need hands. People have jobs, people are going to school.
Yeah.
I'm out of work right now, so my job essentially is whatever is needed at H2O.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. So it gives me the time to get there. Between myself, Devin Moore, Drew Blood, Matt Tremont, Mike Quest, a few of the students that were able to get there, either between or after work or whatever, we got it all done. Built it, painted it, added our little touches to it. And, again, the biggest thing was, the visual presentation of it, as well as the safety of it for the fans at ringside. And I couldn't be any more happier. My heart dropped a little bit when Dev did the running up the wall.
Oh
and
my
did the
God.
DT.
Yes.
Yeah. Trying to sell everything that Ricky just did, but also at the same time, my head was like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. All good. The wall stood.
Oh my
Everything was
God.
fine.
I think the light tubes is where the fans get hit the most because
Yeah.
the Alex Colon and John Knows match.
Oh.
I mean, I got hit with so many light tube stuff, like, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
used to it anyway, but, but
whole
it's
cage
funny.
wall.
Yeah, it's funny to watch, like, fan reactions. Like, I'm so used to it by now with all the death matches and things like that I watch, but to actually watch fans that maybe this was like their first time at H2O and watching them react was like hilarious. I think even Ryan came out at one point to check in on some people around
yeah.
me, and that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
good thing too. If you guys haven't been to H2O, like, the kids are always around, and if there's any issues or anything, or Earl or Chris or whatever, like,
Yeah.
you're covered.
Our top priority is,
Yeah.
is fan safety.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah.
The building, it means so much.
Yeah.
And for it, it's a small building.
Yeah.
Right. But we packed that out.
Yeah.
Matt has done such a great job of building H2O up, and
Yeah.
all the kids and everybody that's a part of it. We built such a huge fan base. I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen it.
Oh, I
Last
know.
year, 300 plus people
Yeah.
in that building, and people show up, people get there. But yeah, with it being a tight, area, those types of matches, they can get pretty hectic, and we try to make sure we give somewhat of a fair warning, but at the same time, like, you're coming to an H2O building, there's going to be death matches there.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with death matches, you know what to expect. Be prepared.
And I like that it's not so much of like the death matches all the time, like where you'll have deathmatch on
Yeah.
a card, which is kind of nice because I feel like then it means a little bit more, like the story build. Again, like I brought up Alex Colon and Chando. I feel like this was a building feud that was going on, so it made sense to go into
Oh
this
yeah.
deathmatch,
Oh yeah.
which was great. So I gotta get Chando on here. I'll get Chando on the
Oh,
podcast.
I'll get Chondo on here. Chondo was my first match at H2O.
Oh, see, so
Three.
like so much history that like we
Yep.
can talk about, and
Yep.
like it's
3 years
just
ago this month was my debut against Chondo.
oh wow,
Yep.
that's so nuts. And it's funny, Wilbert's in the chat. Let me read his what he wrote in the chat. He goes, I remember when you wrestled Austin Luke for the first time, you came outside to his parents and I was standing there with them, and you had came over and said your son is going places in this business. I had respect you doing that, and always do the students look to you look at you as a role model. Hats off to you, Chuck.
Thank you.
And then he also said, yesterday I was at Sean's show. They had some great hardcore. Yes, they did. I'm sad I wasn't there, but I was watching. I was shot. I didn't get home until like 2:00 in the morning. Otherwise, I would have came back.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, those students are great.
Yeah.
You know what? So let me since you brought up like Austin Luke and like you said like Chando, like it's just not me. I was gonna bring up your match with Marcus Matters, like little beast over there. Like I headlining like shows. It's just he's going places. Like Austin Luke's another one. Like I love all the boys. I love you guys. You know, like so much. They know like I love them very very much. But like you had this great match with Marcus, like
Oh god, yeah.
it's crazy.
I wish we. Go ahead.
No, it's funny because like I really thought like this was the way. I really thought at that moment like I was like, okay, Marcus is gonna get the belt. Like I was like, oh, like a student to eventually have like the H2O title. Like I was like, wow, like this is what I was thinking. So it was nuts. Like
No, you know, again, at the time, like I was living, 15 minutes down the road, and obviously, during the pandemic, it was so much easier to be able to be like, yeah, I'll get there anytime you want me to. So yeah, whenever Matt asked me to come in and work one of the kids, a lot of it was a learning lesson for them on how to work a bigger guy, because you got Ross and Bradley, they're big guys. That age group that goes into the school, it's a lot further than the 22, 23 range. You're looking at some 32s and 33s in there, that are learning how to train. Ross, Bradley, and Anthrax, being one of them or being in that group, they're in their early 30s, late 20s, and they're learning how to do it. And I can't be happier enough for them to, be at that age. I'm 28, I'm 8 years in. And these guys are 3 years in, older than me, and doing a hell of a lot more than I was at 3 years in. So I couldn't be any more happier than them for them. But they being they weren't quite there yet to be that having that big match against the little guy storytelling. So Matt would bring me in to work a lot of the kids, Ross and Bradley included, to work some guys that were similar to their size. And yeah, that was it. That was exactly the only reason why I went in there, was to just go in and give them the best match possible and help them understand how to work a guy like my size, because there's plenty of them out there. And Matt tells me all the time, he's like, there's a lot of big guys out there, but you're one of the best big guys I've ever seen. And I'm like, Matt, please don't. I'm not. There's plenty of other guys bigger than me and stronger than me and better than me. He's like, shut up. And I'm like, okay.
Typical Matt.
I can't take compliments like that very easily. It's hard. I always feel like there's room for improvement. But for somebody 2 years in, a year in, and then somebody 7, 8 years in, I there is something I can teach them. But they're gonna learn something more out there with somebody more experienced and whatnot. But yeah, no, the match with Marcus was the last act of the circus match or circus show. That was during the title run. And yeah, if there was ever an opportunity that it made sense, as champion, why not? be a fighting champion, throw the belt on the line.
Yeah.
You know, there was a couple times when I worked Leroy, I wanted to put the belt on the line to kind of add some heat behind that.
Yeah.
I already had a title match announced the week after that, so Matt's like, it's not going to make any sense.
Right.
But if there was an opportunity to put the title on the line and make it believable that, like, hey, Chuck could drop the belt, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm doing it, you know.
Yeah, no,
that's
good.
The match with Austin was one of the first matches that I had with the mask on. Yeah. And he helped me kind of get my breathing down and you know, the visual of like being able to like look in the mask and see in the mask, and you know, and I needed to with him because he throws that kick pretty hard. Ooh. You know,
oof, my God.
But having the mask was awesome because like you know, I didn't feel the need to like, you know, put the hand up. I just fed out and like, go ahead, kid, hit me. You know, and yeah, he, you know, I gave him everything he wanted to hit, and he gave me everything I wanted to hit, and I thought we told a really good story. Yeah. Austin's one of those kids that is a big Japan fan. You know, he loves the wrestling over there in Japan, so that's the style that he wants to work. And Austin, you know, Mark has the, you know, entertainment aspect of it. You know, obviously the high flying and whatnot. His ground skills are amazing because of his wrestling background. You know, both are amazing wrestlers, and you know, both are amazing, you know, at the styles that they chose to want to emulate. All the kids, you know, like you said, there's so many different styles there. There's, you know, the big guys, the powerhouses, the brawlers, hardcore, you know, technical wrestlers, ground wrestlers, high flyers, you know.
And I think that's what makes it entertaining too, right? That it's not all the same style. You're getting different types against different type of styles, and how to work together in that type of match with what you're used to up against, like the opposite. You know, which is that's why I said, like, I was talking about it last night with my friend. I was like, you get a little bit of everything, and that's why like H2O is definitely home.
And then again, the storytelling, you know, those death matches, you know, the companies that do death matches just for the sake of death matches, like, yeah, they have buzz, they got popularity, and fans are following them and stuff, and it's cool and it's exciting, and there's some stuff there that these guys are doing, man. It's just like hats off, you know, nothing but respect. Nothing but respect. But yeah, the difference between those companies and H2O is that you'll get those death matches, but with purpose.
Right.
You know, there's a meaning behind it.
I like that. I think a lot of people forget, like, and they just like throw matches together, and it doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, a highlight show and stuff like that once a year, like, sure. Yeah. You know, absolutely. Like, let's go balls to the wall and have some fun and kill each other. Yeah. But, you know, I've always been, you know, I mean, obviously I got Mike Keener in my ear, you know, early on in my career, where it's like, you know, why, you know, for the first time meeting somebody, you know, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Oh, I hate you enough to, you know, slam you through thousands of light tubes and thumbtacks. You know, where's the heat? Where's the reason behind it? You know what I mean? I keep knocking into this damn lamp.
That's okay. No, I mean, look, I love my death matches too. I could sit there and I could watch all like death match or whatever like that. So, which is great. And the fan base is loyal as fuck, as I always say that on this podcast. Like, that's the nice thing. The different types of wrestling that you got out there. If there's something you don't like, I promise you, there's something I'll be out there that you will definitely like.
The deathmatch fans and, you know, the fans here there at H2O, which, you know, as of late, it's been a mixture of fans, you know, the wrestling fans, the entertainment fans, and the deathmatch fans. There's a nice mixture of them. The deathmatch fans, in my opinion, are the most loyal and nicest people, you know, that I've met. Yeah.
And 100%. I find like a lot of wrestlers will say the same thing too, and I've had these conversations, is they'll always be like, deathmatch wrestlers, and everybody's just like freaked out. And I've clearly had a bunch of deathmatch wrestlers on this podcast, including Alex Colon, will say, and like they're like the nicest people. And a lot of people
100%.
like say they're like the most nicest people in the world, and that's why I always say, like, don't be intimidated. Go sit, go have a conversation with them. They'll talk to you if you feel uncomfortable. Like, don't go talk to them. They appreciate their fans, and they're so sweet. Now it's funny. Let me shift this because I wanted to really talk about this with you because like. I want to talk about your match with G Raver for the Chad Spectacular show, which needs to come up on freaking IWTV. But let me tell you, okay, I was at Atlantic City that entire weekend. And when you do these weekends, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, when you do these GCW weekends, it's a lot because you have a lot of wrestling that's going on. And I came from Atlantic City and I drove over to H2O and I was like, I have to come, I have to see Chad, I have to see this show. And I thought, and you know, you automatically think, you, G-Raver, like, oh, fuck, balls to the walls, we're gonna get like this I didn't know, okay, like I think it was still kind of like new in situation for me for this particular show. And that's the nice thing about H2O is that you have different types of shows. You have the people, like you have the big shows, like we just had Hustlemania, you got Sean Henderson, there's a bunch of crazy talented you know, wrestlers on that. We had the benefit show, like, so this one was a benefit show. So I'm coming in. I'm tired as fuck, okay? And I'm drained, but I'm ready to go because let's go. I'm here for H2O. And you guys come up, all right? And I'm thinking we're going to get this crazy fucking death match. These big two guys here, they're scary as fuck. Like, no. That's not what we got. Even Matt was supposed to be the referee, and then he, like, jumped out, and then Josh came in. And I need to talk about this because this was one of the most fucking funniest moments that I've ever witnessed. This was one of my favorite fucking matches. Like, if Matt doesn't put this show, he needs to put this match on YouTube for free because between the paying off Josh with money between you and G-Raver, the knocking on the doors of trying to hide from each other, rock, paper, scissor fucking counts of pinfalls. Like, what the, like, this was one of the most entertaining matches. And, like, Kennedy and Stan Styles were like, it was a hard act to follow after your match. I needed a cigarette for this match. Like, it was one of the most funniest, entertaining matches. So I love that we have your death match, your regular matches, and then you guys just having fun. And that's what this match was all about. So,
yes. So my apologies to Kennedy and Stan. G-Raver, his mind for the business and, you know, the psychology and stuff, and, you know, I mean, Jesus, you know, the things that he's done, you know, in the deathmatch world and, you know, the wrestling world and whatnot. You know, he is somebody that I you know, I cherish, you know, as a friend, you know, and somebody that I look to as, like, you know, he has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And what was it? This was, you know, right smack dab in the middle of the title defense era. So, you know, I'm beat up. This was the first time ever in my career that a promoter, you know, has given me the options of, like, pick your opponents. Who do you want to defend the belt to? Mm-hmm. You know, we had from the time I won the belt to the time we were getting ready to drop it and pass it on, he allowed me to pick all of my opponents. There was many non-title matches in the middle, and, you know, matches that were, you know, impromptu and stuff that all fell in between, and it was a very busy schedule for me. My body was fucking hurting. At the time, I had no feeling in my left hand for a little bit. You know, not to take anything away from G-Raver, but, you know, my whole shoulder and elbow was just beyond destroyed at that time. You know, just you know, the wear and tear. G-Raver, you know, with his wear and tear, you know, throughout his career, and, you know, the infamous injury that he went through, the night before that, our match, he had that oh
my God, the ceiling.
The ceiling. Yeah,
I was there.
With Jimmy, yeah. So I'm beat up. He's beat up. We literally, you know, sat back in the locker room. I sat in one chair. He sat in the other. Didn't even look at each other, but we're sitting right next to each other. He takes a deep breath. I took a deep breath. I just pulled one of the... He did the same thing to me. It was like something out of a movie. You want to just have some fun? He's like, fuck yeah. And I'm like, all right. Then he's like, we're going to start off with fucking rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Epic stare down. Here's Matt. Pop. I'm like, all right, we got him. Matt's not doing too good either, so he's like, let me go for the cover real quick, and I'll sell something. I'm out. Boom. Bring in Josh.
Yeah.
The knocking on the door spot
Oh
was his idea. The money to pay off Josh for the double down was my idea. So both his creativity, my creativity, I just fed off of his, and I just started coming up with some ideas and throwing them at him, and we're just like, yes, 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 yes. um, it was, we wanted to go and give people, the loyal H2O fans that we knew were going to be there, something, like what they were expecting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also knew it was going to be a lot of people that never seen H2O before, and they were simply there just to support Bryce and what he was raising money for, which that's what it was all about, So why go in and, steal the show and do something that these fans are like, this is cool, but why? You know what I mean? Like, let's just go out and entertain them. Let's go out and just give them a good time. So yeah, it was just a mutual, like, we're beat the fuck up. Let's just go out and have some fun. And it ended up being, what it was, one of my favorite matches.
It was.
Tara Calloway to this day, her favorite match, I had so much fun doing that, and so did G Raver. Like that when we shared that moment at the end, we did the whole Brock Lesnar Taker both sitting up and laughing at each other. That was shoot. We were laughing our asses off just because of how much fun we were having. And man, like the giving the money to Josh. And then him saying, I got something in the eye for the pin, and then G Raver gives him money, and he's like, my arm, and I'm like, dude, what the hell, He's like, well, hey man, you got more money, I got you, and I've emptied out the pockets, got nothing. And he just picks up the trash can and thwack the head, fucking 1, 2, 3, done, counts the money, walks out. I was like, you couldn't have done it any better, And we also wanted to give something to Josh too, because Josh. A lot of people don't give that kid credit. We do, but a lot of the fans don't. He's Iron Man more shows than a lot of 20-year vet refs have ever done in their career. So he's been a part of some of the most memorable moments in recent time at H2O, and has refereed some high quality matches, and has sat in and watched and learned so much, and he's worked his ass off and never complained once. So we wanted to give him a special moment at the end of that night, and just this is your night, Josh, too. Like, let's all have some fun, and it worked out. It was great. I think if G Raver and I were to ever go at it one more time, it's going to be a little bit more of a serious obviously mindset and game plan, but and which I would love, and I know he would too. But we now know we had the chemistry. We know we had the chemistry, and now it's all right, well, right time, right place, and you'll see a Chuck Payne G Raver match again.
Oh my god,
for sure.
I love this match. Like the clippings, the footage that I took of this, I was dying. Like the spot, and of course I'm always sitting in the perfect spot, and you guys were there. Like you went to grab the water, it was hot that day, and then like Raver's like, thanks pal, and then he's like checking your watch, then he's drinking the water. Like this is one of my favorite matches that you guys had. Like it's just so entertaining. Like tell Matt to put this up on YouTube, at least this match, because it was like, this is a match that needs to be out, and I love it that it's like you can have fun. And those matches always like scream out to me, because it's like, I love, again, I could sit here, I could watch light tube, I could watch the high flying, give me the 450s, the shooting star press. Like these are all like my favorite things, and you have two big guys like beating each other up. But it's moments like this that always like stick with me, because it's like, oh, like you're having fun too. And like I can definitely appreciate that you guys can have fun in the ring as well.
I'm glad of that. And you got an awesome shot of the thumb wrestling, the big 2.9 after the thumb wrestle, the big cell, and it was It was fun.
I could go back and look at that footage the entire time. Like it's just such a funny thing. Like so again, like I gotta like have to like nudge like Matt, you gotta put this match out because like that shit was hilarious. Like
Hey,
so
if Matt's watching, or definitely, I'll shoot him a message, be like, hey, put that up.
Yeah.
I think it was for it to go up and have people see it, just something to be like, hey, we could do this, we can do that, we can do X, Y, and Z, but we were also capable of doing this,
No, it was good. I appreciate those moments. Let me grab some of these fan tweets, and actually, like I saw somebody in the chat, Colby Adams came in and said the monster Chuck Payne. So here, let me grab like these fan tweets. We had a couple. Michael had said, what moment, if you recall, got you hooked on professional wrestling?
Man. Well, again, Kane was the big thing. Just the whole presence of this 7-foot monster, jacked up dude, strong as hell, probably rip your face off if he wanted to, with the mask and the mystery behind it of what he looked like and stuff. That got me hooked into wanting to know what this was, what he was doing. The moment that got me hooked, there was actually two. Because I was fairly young, young enough to where like my parents were like, all right, don't stay up, you can't stay up too late, so you can't really watch all the Raws and SmackDowns.
Right.
Let's monitor the pay-per-views. So like I was, we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, but they treated me to at least renting, the WrestleMania pay-per-views growing up. So from WrestleMania 17 on, we got them, we were watching them, but the Blockbuster days, love them. I miss those Blockbuster days. Go in, get a video game and then a wrestling or WWF pay-per-view on VHS. And for those of you who don't know VHS, go fuck yourself.
Those were good times.
Oh my god,
the rare moments that you would see, even like little footage of wrestlers like backstage eating food or little things that were always like entertaining.
King of the Ring 1998. I rented that, and the cover of it was the King of the Ring logo, and then Sable was in the corner, and then when you flip it over, and they show some clips of the matches that they had that night, and I just remember the center of it was Undertaker standing on top of a cage, and like the cage was falling through because this is when Mankind had just gotten chokeslammed through it, and all these hands were up, like no, like that picture right there was like, I want to see what this is. Rented that and went home and watched it, and that was the first time I watched Mankind get thrown off of the Hell in a Cell, and I was like, what the fuck. I take my action figures and I'm 7, 8 years old, and I'm throwing them off of stuff into like Legos and shit and whatnot. And then the next pay-per-view, I rented WrestleMania 15. My pay-per-view rentals like at Blockbuster were all over. Like I was, renting things from like 98, 99, and I'm thinking this is all within 2 months of each other. Like this is the next show. Like not realizing that, this was a year ago, this was now, this was whatever, I was just all over. But just seeing different matches and moments and stuff, over the years, and not knowing the order of it, the story of it, just watching it, that's what got me hooked. Wanting to see the build up to that Hell in a Cell, wanting to see what happened after that Hell in a Cell, wanting to see what happened after WrestleMania 15, and I personally think that that's one of the best WrestleManias next to WrestleMania 17. Like WrestleMania 17 was my personal favorite WrestleMania. I loved WrestleMania 15, but that's only because it just had such a special place in my heart, because that was the first one that I watched. And it was in Philly, and I think Kane and Triple H had a great match, and watching Undertaker hang Big Boss Man from Hell in a Cell. At 8, I was shitting myself. Thought it was real. I'm like, oh my god. And then WrestleMania 17 we watched live. That was the first one my parents bought. And then I stumbled across Backlash of 2001, not too long after that, when it came out on VHS, and Shane McMahon versus Big Show, last man standing match. Shane McMahon taking that big leap of faith off of the Titantron.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just that all the camera angles and the visual and just seeing a human being fall from a height like that
It's
and
crazy.
what it meant, why he did it. That's why I love what wrestling is because, yes, the wrestling inside the ring is the story, but the moments that
Yeah.
stick with you are just, they just add so much element to it. And, that's what I wanted to be when I got into professional wrestling was, I wanted to be somebody that created moments.
Yeah.
I wanted to, do I think I'm a good wrestler? Sure. Do I think I'm a great wrestler? No, I got a lot of work to do. I'm not going to ever claim to be a great professional wrestler, but I want to at least be known as somebody that can fill in spots, be thrown in with anybody of any style, have good matches, tell good stories, and then yeah, when it comes time to it, like put on some really good moments and leave people going, holy shit,
Yeah.
and talked about for a while.
That's awesome. Next fan tweets from Dawn. She said, "When are you coming back to DC? DCW. Austin misses you. Let us know because we want to see you again."
I told you, Dawn. I'm not sure when. I'd like to get back down to DCW in the Delaware area. Right now, my focus is really on H2O.
Come on down. Come on down.
I know. I miss working with Zach Connor. I think he's somebody that really helped me along the way. He gave me a different gimmick down there, something that was different from the Chuck Payne gimmick and whatnot. And it was cool to kind of like play a different play something different.
Right.
At the end of the day, like there's no hiding the fact. Yeah, I'm 6'5", I'm 300 pounds. I got long blonde hair. There's really, there's only so much you can do to tweak things, make it a little different. But he did kind of help open my eyes, and I do miss working with him, and I hope he does have a speedy recovery. I know he had some issues the last time he was down. They were at the auto show doing the DCW event and had some severe dehydration. And when I heard he was in the hospital, I wanted to make sure he was all right. So hopefully speedy recovery on that end. And who knows, maybe Chuck Payne makes a debut at DCW. But for right now, I think with everything going on at H2O, I have no, I don't want to say desire to work anywhere else, but I'm at a point right now in my career
on it, just focusing on the H2O. Yeah.
I fought my first 5 years, even leading up to the pandemic, while I was still working at H2O, I was working at other places and traveling and trying to get that, every weekend of the month I'm working. But once the pandemic hit and everything shut down, and then Matt was in a position to be able to up and run, and it was 15 minutes away, and we made it work, and empty arena matches, and the 50 people, 25 people, and then just build and build and build. I not only built a professional relationship with him that was a lot stronger, but a personal relationship with him that I never thought I'd ever have. Not just with him, but with Chrissy and Devin Moore and all them. Like, I don't want to go anywhere else. I'd rather give my focus and attention there and help build H2O to where I know it can be.
Dawn, come on down to H2O.
Hey, I look at TV. We're on and just log in, check it out. Watch it from home, or come on up, make a drive up to South Jersey. It's not too far.
It's so great. Jake Galladay's in the chat. He goes, "Love you, brother. Thanks for being family."
Oh, of course.
I love
Jake was another one. Danny Havoc's brother-in-law. I met him shortly after Danny had passed. We all got together. Just it was weird for me because I've met Danny a handful of times leading up to this point. He had one conversation with me that at the time it was cool, but I didn't know how important it was until I saw the documentary that went out on Vice of him, and then when he passed, it really really hit me like shit. Like the conversation was I want to say it was either after my first ever death match against Schlack, or the last man standing match I had with Chondo. Danny pulled me off to the side after the match and was like, I'm really happy that you're here. You fit in really well, and everything that you've been asked to do, you're doing it, and you're doing it really well. And I'm really glad that you're here. Um, and at the time, it was humbling because Danny was one of the creators of H2O and the minds of it. And then when I saw the documentary, I'm like, holy shit, like that means even more coming from somebody like him. And then passing, when he passed away, and they invited me to come out and hang out and just be with everybody. And a lot of tears that night, a lot of laughs and happy memories. And I was just kind of there to be there to let people cry on the shoulder and talk to and tell stories. And that was the first night that I met Jake, and knowing that he was Danny's brother-in-law, and he was there basically just hear all the stories of Danny, because he knew but he didn't know. And we all stayed up until like 9 o'clock that next morning, and we're just sitting. It was me, Jake, Matt, and Dev just sitting in a circle in the middle of the arena, dark. Everybody else was kind of sleeping, left or passed out or whatever. And it was just the four of us sitting up, and me and Jake were just sitting there just listening to Matt and Dev tell all these great stories of all them back in the day. And that was the moment that I was kind of let in a little bit more and started to become friends. And it was a day that I'll always hold close to my heart and thankful for. And every day since then, gotten closer and better and stronger. And Jake, I'm glad you were there, and I'm glad we got a chance to meet. And to this day, yeah, man, definitely a brother of mine for sure.
So sweet. I love it. Let me go into we're gonna step out of H12 for a second. I want to bring up a match, because when it comes to Anthony Gangone, if you know me, Gangone is very important to me on this podcast. He is like everything independent wrestling to me. Obviously, my first interview, my 100th interview, very important to me. That has kind of placed me to, I always feel like, where I started following a lot of the independents, especially in Jersey. So I always feel like he's my ticket. But I want to talk about it. It's great too, because we could talk a little bit about like a little AEW with there too, is that you had a match with Anthony Gangone and Sonny Kiss at Capitol, which is now Catalyst Wrestling, which if you guys followed the Indie Talks, I was there at the last Catalyst. You'll see a lot of backstage as well. But this was an amazing match between the three of you. And Anthony Gangone, I always say, has this incredible mind for the business. And just his in-ring work is insane. So like I said, very important. Once I start seeing Gangone name thrown around, I have to talk about it on the podcast. So let's talk a little bit about this match. Give me.
So they up there at the time in Capitol Hoboken, there was a lot of different things going on, behind the scenes, on camera, segments and whatnot. And at one point they threw me and Gangone together as kind of like the outcasts of Capitol Wrestling. And the owner of Capitol was like, screw you guys, I don't want you guys here, blah blah blah. And we'd come in and just basically just like raise hell. Gangone held the owner captive, and I grabbed his little henchman Zach Amico, and Gangone was, I want a match, I want a title match, I want this, I want that, and if you're not going to give it to me, Chuck Payne is going to destroy your henchman. And Zach Amico was he came from like the carnival era of like I don't know the word for it. You probably know it better than I would, but like the guys that would like be human dartboards and stuff like that, I can't come up with the name of it, but that's where he came from. So they were like, hey, staple Zach Amico in the face.
Yeah.
Sure. I didn't really know what to think about that at the time, because this is before, this is prior H2O and Deathmatch and stuff like that. And I never had anything against Deathmatch. at the time. But again, like I'm coming from like the Keener days where, he's big on the 70s, 80s style wrestling. And, the family friendly PG era, good guy, bad guy wrestling, like the hardcore
Yeah.
deathmatch world, it was something that was, I knew it was there. I had respect for it, but I didn't feel like it was something that I was going to be able to be good at. So this is the first time I ever had a staple to a man's face ever. I'm like, all right, cool. And he's like, yeah, man, just hit me. Just get it. And I'm like, all right, whatever, And as I'm, holding this guy by his neck and I got a staple to his face, I look down to my left and there's like 5 kids there, like looking at me like, oh my God, like what the hell?
Oh
Like
no.
tears in their eyes. And
Oh
I'm like, this is bad. This is so bad. And Gangone kind of agreed, with me that like, hey, yeah, man, this is getting kind of wild, getting kind of off the wall, And it ended with what did we end up doing? We did a double header up in Brooklyn. The first show, the Saturday, was at a comedy club, and all the fans there were the typical people that would go to the comedy club. So they were just there getting drunk and just wanted to have a good time. Up till that point, that was the loudest crowd I'd ever been in front of.
Oh wow. Us New
None of them
Yorkers.
were wrestling fans.
Oh
whatsoever.
damn, even worse.
So no matter what we did that night, like they were cheering, they were loud, they were having a good time, and I wasn't booked for a match, but I was there to kind of, I'm banned from the building while I'm coming in anyway. There was a comedian up there, pretty well known, who wanted to be involved in the show, and earlier on, he's we're running through what we were gonna do. He's like, yeah, hit me with your big clothesline and choke slam me through a door, whatnot. And I'm like, all right, cool. This is what I need you to do to make sure you're safe, and I'll take care of the rest. And everything that I told him, what to do, what not to do, he did and didn't do. So I hit him with the hardest clothesline that I could because I felt a little disrespected, as a professional wrestler, and what was happening at this show and how they were kind of treating us and whatnot. So I was like, I'm gonna take his fucking head off. He knows how to do it right. So yeah, he's gonna feel it, but I'm not gonna hurt him.
Yeah.
But again, I tell him, hey, lift your head up. And what does he do? He drops his head down.
Oh no.
So my entire bicep connected with his chin, which then sent the lower half of his jaw into the upper half of his jaw, and he was knocked out and out cold. And I picked him up and chokeslammed him through a door while he was basically unconscious. And, I didn't care. Like, I just, I didn't appreciate, that environment, that type of environment there. You know what I mean? Like, the crowd was hot, loved them very much.
Wow.
The boys in the back were great, but the comedians that were there, like, some of them were very respectful and, like, understood, like, what it is that we do, and the other ones were just there just to get their name over, and that was it. They didn't really give a shit about the business aspect of it. So that kind of put me in a bad mood. And then the next day we were down the road a little bit at a very big church and put on an actual like wrestling show there. Did a multi-man match. Ended up being very well. I had a good time there. That was nice. But fast forward to, all right, well, what are we going to do with Chuck and Gangone and blah, blah, blah. Throw Sonny Kiss into the mix because Sonny was, the hottest thing there. Sonny lived there, grew up there, in the Hoboken area.
Yeah.
So, Sonny was one of the top names there. So they threw us in a triple threat match for I believe it was the #1 contendership. And yeah, it was all 3 completely different styles.
Yeah. Definitely.
I never worked with Gangone before. I never worked with Sonny Kiss before. And I think that was, it was just one of those matches where, like, going into it, the drive there and, getting everything set and finding my place in the locker room and whatnot, I'm running through my head like, I don't know what to expect, like,
Right.
All right, I'm just going to stay quiet and just let them say what they got to say and pitch what they want to pitch, and I'll throw my 2 cents in when the time needs be. Once they started calling stuff and like going over stuff, I immediately felt very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, awesome. do this here, I'll do this there, you do this, boom, 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 awesome, great. It flowed so well in the back, and it flowed so well out in the ring, and I couldn't have been happier with that match. I had a lot of fun, gained a lot of respect, a lot more respect than I already had for Sonny and Gangone, and I were, we were obviously doing, the little segment that we were doing. So he and I were talking a lot more, and I felt like me and him got a little closer that night too, because this was the first time we actually like went to war with each other.
Right.
And then shortly after, here's Sonny popping up on AEW, and I'm like, hey, that's awesome.
It's so cool to see.
Great. That was such a great moment in seeing Sonny, and I wish Sonny the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely wish the best.
So awesome.
Gangone later on, I had a small heat with him down in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was nothing that he did. One of the things I didn't like about working with Capitol at the time was they dedicated a lot to the production aspect of it and telling stories and trying to be on that that TV level, but the old school way of promoting, like, I don't know if you've ever been to Hoboken before, or
Yeah, I have.
anybody that,
Yep.
you see how tight it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would go to the pizza place the block down the road. Like, all the boys would go to the pizza when they were done, go get a slice and whatnot, and we were giving them good business. All you had to do was go in there and say, hey, here's a stack of 200 flyers for the upcoming show. Every pizza, can you just put one on the box?
Yeah.
That was it. There was no physical promotion whatsoever there. They just relied solely on social media. And yes, social media, huge player, huge impact. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And if handing out a flyer to, if that's too much to ask, then hey, get out of the business. But do something. Do some physical labor of like, just walk down to a store and be like, hey, here's a couple stacks of flyers. That's it. Nothing. So where the loyal crowd that would continue to go was there, 40 people, 50 people, and the names on these shows and the matches and what was being done in that building at the time, there's no reason that place shouldn't have had almost 500 people in there.
Right.
Every show. And I felt like they dropped the ball there. And it sucked because there's there's a lot of people that, they you need to have some eyes on them. Fast forward to Nashville, Tennessee. They arranged for us to, the hotel was taken care of, travel was taken care of. And it was, first time I'm like, all right, hey, cool, this is awesome. They decided that they were going to run the same story that they were telling in Hoboken down in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And did they have some TV deals? Sure. You're on a local TV station at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning up in New York, but there was really nothing that was being broadcasted down in the Nashville area. So to take the story from up in Hoboken and tell it down in Nashville just didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't make sense. And it didn't, the draw wasn't as well as we were all hoping for. And the stories were, it would have made sense up here because people up here knew what was going on, but down there they had no idea what was going on.
Right.
And the matches that could have happened and probably should have happened were, highlight matches. There was nothing going on between me and Lou Bruno, but hey, me and Lou Bruno, two big guys, there's your big guy match. You got your girls match, you got your, your tag team match, your high flying match, your grappling match, your, big main event, name match, because Jack Swagger was down there, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash were down there. There was a lot of things that they could have done differently, just to be like, hey, here's what Capitol's all about. Here's a highlight show. Instead they went down and they told the stories, and it fell flat. In my opinion, it fell flat. But hey, at the end of the day, they took care of us. We got to wrestle down there in Nashville. That was the second time I got to wrestle in Nashville. I couldn't complain, but also they put me in a position where I was basically in charge of calling this match with, two guys only actually working, and the rest were just kind of very inexperienced, and one never wrestled a match a day in his life.
Oh wow.
And it was a 3-on-2 mixed multi-man match, and it was just terrible. Um, I put the blame on myself to a degree, because I probably should have done a little better job of constructing that match and making it, let's focus on what strengths do we have and let's hide the weaknesses that we have. And that was the first time I was ever really in that experience, and it was a learning lesson for me as well. But long story short, Gangone comes up to me and basically was like, yeah, that match sucked. And I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit. Like, what the hell do you expect me to do? Like, I yelled at him. I'm like, what the fuck do you expect me to do? Like, do you look at the shit that they just gave me to do? Like, what the fuck? Like, I was pissed. I was so pissed.
Man.
So, yeah, I snapped at him, and that was the first time, like, ever, in my career up to that point where I was like, I put my foot down. Like, I'm sorry. Like, green or not, or, if you're a vet or not, like, the yes sir, no sir, that's very strong with me. The yeah buts, no, that's something that you don't do, and I learned that lesson down in North Carolina with fucking Rock and Roll Express. I'll tell that story. But yeah, at that point, I was just so heated with everything. I put my foot down, and I'm like, yo, like, you're not gonna sit there and tell me, that I get it. I know the match was the shits, but you're not gonna put that on me. I get where I could have done something differently, but at the same time, there was only so much that I can do. So back off, essentially. You know what I mean? And again, like, there's no heat like now between me and him. We've seen each other a couple times between then, and we'll talk about that night and laugh and shoot the shit about it. But yeah, that was Anthony Gangone was the first person that I was like, I'm not taking shit from anybody. Yeah. I'm putting my fucking foot down. But then at the same time, like, he did have some really good, words of encouragement and, critique that I did need to hear. Mm-hmm. So I do thank him for that as well. But yeah, that was my last time down in Nashville, Tennessee. And I think one of the last times I was, working for Capitol mm-hmm. as well. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start like wrapping this podcast off, because we're almost at like an hour and a half. Man. Yeah. My bad. No, you're good. So, I always like to ask, like, what's some things you like to do when you're not wrestling?
Nothing.
Take care of your cute dog. Like,
oh yes. Havoc is huge. So taking care of him, hanging out with the girlfriend, and her and I like the fall activities and stuff. So we're pretty excited, getting ready to, take the little one out to the pumpkin patch and Halloween stuff, and we're really excited. But yeah, I mean, really, like, my downtime, like, if I'm not wrestling or doing something at the building that involves wrestling, whether it's, building something, fixing something, helping Matt with, creativity or whatnot, and talking to him about upcoming stuff for everybody, and just being there at a rental, hanging out. I'm a video game player. Oh. I'm not hardcore with it, but enough to where it's like, I get lost for an hour or two, and I need to get back into my original hobby, which was lifting and working out. But mm-hmm. living up in PA now, I haven't quite found the gym that I really wanted to get to. So learning new ways to do like home workouts and stuff has been one of my downtime things that I've been doing, especially now. Because my workouts now, even when I do get back into the gym, they have to change. I can't. My days of lifting 400 plus pounds are long gone because of all the wear and tear on my body. So, looking at it, looking at the Undertaker, who's another big factor of reason why I'm a wrestling fan. And watching how he transitioned his workouts with all of his injuries over the years, that's something that I'm learning, all right, more yoga stretching aspect
Mhm.
rather than the old traditional powerlifting aspect, which I was doing. So that's been really exciting, reading up on that and studying that, and looking forward to being able to take what I've been doing and have done at home and putting that in a gym environment. So that's another downtime thing that I do. But again, that involves going into wrestling. So
That's
I
okay.
really do nothing outside of wrestling. You know.
um, wait, let me grab Dave's question from earlier. I meant to ask it, and I just kept going with my questions. He wants to know what was the best advice Mike Kerner gave you.
Mike Keener gave me,
Keener,
huh?
sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Can't
That's
talk.
fine. Uh, it's all good. I've been talking your ear off. So, Mike Keener, man. See that there's not one thing that Keener gave me that's better than the other. From the in-ring work, the psychology work, to being on the road and how to budget and you know get the max out of your experiences on the road, your pay on the road as far as what you pay to be on the road, the tweaks in your routines and stuff, and how to cut corners a little bit here and there, as far as ensuring that you get the most back out of it. So I really can't say that there's been one thing better than the other, and there's still a lot of things that I'm sure he can still teach me, and same with Matt as well. It's there's not. I can write a whole book on all the best things that Keener has given me over the years.
Okay. All right, that's great. Um, so you know what? I'm gonna do a final question. Chuck is always on the indie talks, and then we'll have him come back again. We'll do another interview, but I want to talk about what's coming up also. But
Yes.
I want to end off on this because I love ending off on this because there's a lot of fans out there that want to get into wrestling or will put out those tweets or they'll message me about advice. So, what's of the piece of advice that would you give to an amateur or inspired wrestler?
Whew. Like anybody that's starting to train or anybody
Yeah,
that wants to train.
yeah, both would be.
All right. Anybody that wants to train, um, H2O would be the place to go to, only because of the variety of the trainers that are there and all the different experience levels and styles that they work. Don't don't go in there expecting to be able to work the style of your favorite wrestler because you may not physically be able to, and that's okay. You got to find your own. Um, you know, I've always been, somebody that really loves, like Shane McMahon, Jeff Hardy spots and stuff that they do. Well, guess what? I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. I ain't always gonna be able to do that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I found my style being more, Kane and Undertaker, which again, that's somebody that's a fan of mine. Um, so don't go in there with having a solid set like this is how I'm going to be this is what I'm going to do in the ring, this is how I'm going to be in the ring. You don't know that until you actually get in the ring. For those of you who are just now starting to train, stick with it. Stick with it. Forget everything that you think and remember, like, you are now on the other side of the barrier. You're no longer a fan. You are now a trainee in this business, and you have to treat it with respect. And the traditions that are taught, and all the times that all these old heads are going to be like, pay your dues and pay your. Well, guess what? Pay your dues. If that means you have to drive an hour to 2 hours or more for no pay, just to set up chairs, set up a ring, sweep some floors, and sit there when you could be doing this or you could be doing that on a Saturday night. Well, guess what? You're not, because this is what you want to do. This is what everybody else has done, and it's something that no matter how many years you put in, nobody's bigger than setting up some chairs or helping put up a ring, because it's the work that needs to get done in order to put on what we love, and that is wrestling. So don't lose sight of that, and be grateful to just be a part of it. And yeah, step up, take some sacrifices, be there, set up some chairs, sweep floors, do anything and everything that is either asked of you or you feel like you need to do and asked to do, and it'll come. It'll come. That work doesn't go unnoticed at all.
Yeah. I mean, look, like I was just talking before about like Alex Cologne making weapons. And Alex Cologne's been in the business so long and he's sitting there making weapons. Or like I saw the photo with him at one of the Atlantic City shows and he's sweeping. He was like the only one in that picture. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like Alex Cologne's still like doing all this stuff. Like I always go back to him. I feel like he's like a perfect example. But I see it all the time too. And even with, I feel honored and it means so much to me that, even people like Matt and, their promoters let me come backstage and let me do what I do.
Of course.
On this podcast.
You treat it with respect.
Of course, and you have to. And I get that too, is that people think that they just deserve it. And or that they're entitled, and it's like, no. Like I had this conversation recently with someone and I was like, no, you can't just assume that you can do this stuff. You have to do the right things in order, to be able to do the things that I'm doing. And coming even backstage with Matt and allowing me to work with the kids and you guys and everything, like it means the world to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love all you guys. You guys are the best, and you guys have been nothing but it's so great to me. And I can't thank all of you guys. You guys are the best. But
thank you.
Definitely. It says what did you say, Dave? I chuck at H2O. I'm hearing voices. What? I'm confused.
That's weird, Dave. Don't make this weird.
All right, so before we wrap this completely up, let's talk about this crazy 3-day weekend we got coming up here. I got flyers for you guys. Like this, I'm sad I didn't go last year for last extravaganza. I thought about it, and it was funny because I was texting with people like Casey and I'm sad I didn't go, but I was home. I was supporting, and I feel like a last extravaganza was really where I finally came in touch to H2O, which is great. And I guess that's the best way, I feel like, to come into H2O is with this. And look, here we are a year later, and we got 3 days worth, which I will be at every show, guys. There will be Indie Talks episodes of backstage footage of each one of these shows. I haven't decided if I'm going to do one big edit or I'm going to do 3 edits for these. Probably 3 edits. Because each show is special. My God. And just so you guys know, I am doing a panel the Sunday before this October Halloween weekend with Matt Tremont, Brandon Kirk, and Austin Luke. So we're going to talk everything into detail about these 3 days. But man. Chuck, Jesus, tell me, can we get any insight of what should we expect from all 3 nights? Never mind the fact that Onita and Matt Tremont, and Tremont's coming out of retirement.
So, backstory on this extravaganza was for Danny Havoc. That was something that was special to Matt and all of Danny's friends. Something to do for him, and it kicked off something that we'd never expected. Matt never expected. When he did, when he retired the first night, and what all the things that have aspired since then, holy shit, it was very unexpected. So was Onita, highly unexpected, and it's only fitting to do that a full year later. After the extravaganza show. So I wouldn't be surprised if October becomes H2O's Halloween or WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Just bigger and better every year. What to expect?
Craziness.
Seeing as that I will most likely be there all 3 nights, and whatever aspect that he needs me to be there, and H2O needs me to be there, just helping out and whatnot, even if it's sweeping floors, I will be there. It's going to be chaotic for sure because a 3-day weekend alone, but you're gonna get a chance to see the kids in a element and an environment that you haven't quite seen since Heir to the Throne, which
Yeah.
in my opinion was one of the
My
best shows this
oh,
past year.
my fave.
You know,
Yeah.
that's something what to expect with them. An Heir to the Throne type deal, and that's something that they all deserve. They've been working their asses off, and some have come back from injury during all this too. They've gotten hurt doing what they love for H2O, and they've been working their asses off to come back to H2O. So you're gonna see the kids get highlighted that weekend. Matt Tremont's Deathmatch tournament. I know Kennedy has been announced for it. I can't say who else is there.
It's okay.
I do know some,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not gonna say anything. You guys are just gonna have to wait and find out. But that will be released throughout the month. And as far as Matt and Onita,
Oh my
it's
God.
Matt and Onita, and the Memorial Hardcore Rumble that night too. So those are the only two that have been confirmed. And this whole month leading up to that week, I've talked to Matt. Gonna be kind of sitting back a little bit and focusing on some stuff at home. And the week leading into that show weekend, I'll pop my head in and be there to help Matt as needed. But we all kind of agreed, like, hey, let's relax for a little bit, take 2 weeks off, and let things be calm before the storm, so to speak. But it's gonna be one hell of a fucking storm, I'll tell you that
Yeah.
much. So
Chondo just got announced to be at Hustlemania, that he's gonna be the second entrant.
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
in the deathmatch tournament on Saturday. Like, this is
Yes.
all on
Well deserved.
IWTV.
Well
Like,
deserved. Yes.
pay the
Yeah.
$10 for the month. It's worth it. I'm telling you, this is gonna
Oh God. Yeah.
be insane.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
I said, I've become such a massive fan of H2O.
Yeah.
A lot of people call me like family now. It's funny, like when people say it, it's sweet. Like,
You are.
yeah.
You're there. You're there.
Uh,
We know.
I feel bad. I was talking to Sean Henderson earlier, and I was like, I feel bad when I'm not there. Like, I wanted to be at the show yesterday. I want to come to all the Undiscovered. I live far, and it's like, I mean, I'm not insanely far because I do the drive, but
Right.
to like go back and forth from New York to New Jersey,
No, of course.
it's
Of course.
it's a lot. But I'm here. I support. I love
There you
the
go.
fuck out of H2O. If you guys have not got on the train, get on the train.
Oh, absolutely. And
Um,
Undiscovered is now
yeah.
on a weekly basis
Yeah.
as well. So that's awesome. I'm really hoping to see them fill a spot in on IWTV as well. I
Yeah.
think it's well deserved, and what they're doing there for the kids, and what the kids are doing in return. Putting on some really good matches and telling some good stories. Check them out as well if you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the IWTV. If you haven't signed up, sign up.
Yeah.
This
This is the
this
month.
weekend alone. Yeah,
Mhm.
please. There's so many other great things on
Yeah.
IWTV as well besides H2O, but
Yeah.
I really, really think H2O is going to turn some heads and
Yeah.
open some eyes. And this weekend is going to be this Halloween weekend is going to be one of those moments where if you missed it, you're going to be pissed.
I'm like,
So-
I'm coming alone. I don't care. I'm there. Like, I'm there like swimwear. I was like, I have to be. I had booked my hotel way in advance because I was like,
Awesome.
I am not missing this 3-day weekend again. I was like, no way. I was like, I'm gonna be there. And again, like, I can't wait for me to sit down with Matt, Brandon Kirk, and Austin Luke and talk everything. So make sure you guys are following the No Holds Barred Network Twitter to find out all updates of times and all that stuff that we got coming on. Matt's always coming on the podcast, which is great. He's giving us all the 411, so, but
I would love to give you guys 411, but it's not my
It's
place.
okay.
You know what I mean?
we get it from Matt all the time. So
Good.
it's
All right,
like,
if as long as the boss man
yeah,
says it,
boss
then
man,
that's fine. But
boss man hooks
I'm-
me up.
I'm
Boss
not
man's
saying shit.
boss man's hooking me up all the time.
I'm not saying
I
shit.
love it. I love it.
So-
So we're gonna end that on that note. Again, like, here's all the thumbnails for you guys. Again, the 29th, the 30th, the 31st. Make sure you're watching all these shows. Again, you can also find other shows like the Sean Henderson shows, the Stan Styles shows. Like, there's so many shows on that app from like H2O. So definitely get on that train.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna wrap this interview up. Tell everybody where they can find you if they want to like buy merch or like find you on social media.
So my physical merch, I do have the newest T-shirt that was just designed, the Terminator logo, as well as the first ever design of in my H2O days. I do have them available. Sizes vary from mediums to 2Xs, 3X. I got a couple 3Xs as well. Some 8x10s will be printed out and made available each show. I do ship. Message me personally, Chuck Payne on Facebook, Monster Chuck Payne on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, official Chuck Payne 93. Please feel free to message me. I will be more than happy to send you guys, any of the merch that I have available. I am making shot glasses, more shot glasses, and eventually some bumper stickers and some pins. Trying to get my merch up.
There you go.
Been slacking in that department, but I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. But also, all of my T-shirt designs that have ever been created are up on deathmatchworldwide.com. There you can order any design, any size. Corey is fantastic over there. He will get them to you, and you will be so happy. And I would love to see more Chuck Payne shirts in the crowds. And thank you guys for the support, and I appreciate it. And like I said, any of those, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Please shoot me a message. I can get you guys. I got ring worn gear available, and anything you guys want, I'll make my personal touch to it and my way of saying thank you guys for the support.
You guys are great. Make sure you give some love, support, all that same stuff. But Chuck,
Absolutely.
Thank you again for coming on this podcast.
Thank you
I love
for having
it.
me.
There's so much more. Definitely check out the Indie Talks. Like I said, you never know who's gonna show up on on me recording backstage. You dance parties and Chuck taking a shit, as he always says. On the podcast.
Come on, listen, I'm a monster in the ring, but I like having fun out back.
Hey, that's what this is all about. Yeah. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Remember, stay safe, support independent wrestling. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good night.
See you guys.